Travelling throughout Hungary. Hungary is one of the smallest countries in Europe, barely a fifth of the size of Spain. Nevertheless, it has a long history due to its central position in Europe. Nowadays it shares a common border with 7 countries. Several cultures have settled in its territory throughout history, such as the Celts, Huns, Romans and Slavs, and several empires have ruled its territory, such as the Ottomans, German and Austrian empires, and more recently the Nazi invasion and latterly the Soviet Union. The most well-known city in Hungary is its capital, Budapest, but there are fairly a few interesting small to medium-sized cities apart from the capital. Most of them are close to the Balaton Lake, where Hungarians go on holiday. One of them is Esztergom, where the first Hungarian king was crowned in the year 1000 on Christmas Day, with the ceremony taking place in the astonishingly beautiful basilica. The largest church in Hungary sits upon a small hill, providing a great sight from the river below, even more so at night. Esztergom is a lovely little town to visit, and closer to the Austrian border is Sopron, a small village whose streets reveal a history of many distinct cultures but with deep influences from the German Empire. This bilingual town actually voted on whether they'd rather belong to Austria or Hungary. Sopron produces a lot of wine, and the local Pinot Noir is quite good. Near Budapest, 60 kilometers or so, is the Pannonhalma Abbey, built in the year 1002 by then King Stephen, who brought Christianity to Hungary, making it one of the oldest monuments in Hungary. It was declared World Heritage Site in 1996. Besides these lovely places, Budapest is a must-visit. The river Danube splits the city in two, Pest and Buda. The Pest side is home to the most modern part, but hosts several relevant sites like St. Stephen's Basilica, the spectacular Parliament, and the Great Synagogue, the Váci Street, and the Opera House. The Opera House was built during the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Emperor, influenced by his wife Sisi, requested the only condition that it shouldn't be as big as the Vienna Opera House. Buda, the other part of the city, is placed on a hill, and from it you get some really incredible sights of the city, as well as defensive buildings such as the Royal Palace. In the east of Buda you can visit the very well-known and centuries-old Gellert Baths with its great main hall and magical healing spring. But it's the bridges over the Danube that really makes Budapest that bit different. You've got the famed chain bridge, a suspension bridge, the Rákóczi steel girder bridge, the Megyeri cable-stayed bridge, and also the wide Elizabeth Bridge, named after the Empress Sisi. Taking a cruise on the river at Twilight was just a brilliant experience, and I couldn't recommend it more. On the cruise you can also get up close to the Parliament. The buildings are right next to the river, which makes it look quite a lot like the Houses of Parliament in London. From the banks of the river you get a great view, especially at night when the Parliament buildings are lit up. In fact, the sights from both sides of the river at night were simply gorgeous, as is the sight of the Budapest skyline from the top of Gellert Hill. Gellert Hill was actually named after a man who was thrown off the hill to his death, and the views you get of the river, Parliament and bridges are really to die for. As far as food's concerned, it seemed to me as though meat was the main staple, with the most typical dish being the goulash, a meat stew with potatoes and quite a lot of paprika. There's quite a bit of freshwater fish, but a huge lack of saltwater fish. I tried for the first time ever sturgeon, and ate quite a bit of trout. I love trout. The food's pretty cheap too, except really in Budapest, where it's normally priced. Everything out of Budapest is quite cheap though. Another thing in Hungary that made me feel quite good is that their level of English is really quite low. I felt great using my English there. There aren't that many famous Hungarians, aside from Sisi. Nevertheless, I'm sure everyone is familiar with the Rubik's Cube, which was invented by Rubik from Hungary. And also Biro, who invented that rather magnificent invention, the biro pen, the revolutionary way of writing.